Imagine being able to use magic spells but at the speed of an FPS such as Call of Duty. This is what Immortals of Aveum brings to the table, the first game from new developer Ascendant Studios. It's got a lot going for it, but does this mashup of ideas create something compelling for the player? Before we get into it, I have played the game from beginning to end. The world of Aveum is currently embroiled in a conflict called the Everwar, as each kingdom battles to take control of magic. In addition to this, there is also the Wound, a somewhat bottomless pit that continues to grow larger by the day. Our story begins in the underground portion of Seren, which is based in the region of Lucium. Our protagonist Jack and then gang leader Luna are simple street thieves, just trying to survive in the world. Luna wishes to join the Light's army, however Jack is completely against it and does not understand why anyone would want to take part in the Everwar. Soon after, we find ourselves under attack by the Roshanians, and while trying to protect Jack, Luna is hit by a magic blast and sent over the edge towards the void of the Wound. Emotionally charged, Jack unleashes his full magic potential, laying waste to the Roshanian soldiers around him, before fainting and awaking later in a Seren that has been destroyed. Jack is found by Kirkan, Grand Magnus of the Order of the Immortals, who offers assistance as the Roshanians would hunt him down in return for joining the army and fighting in the war. With nowhere else to go, Jack joins Kirkan as a battle mage of Lucium and the Light's army, or the other name they are called in this world, a Magni. The story overall is okay and has some high moments, but I felt that there was a lost opportunity to really develop certain connections between characters and give Jack more of an impactful arc. One area that it did not deliver on for me was between Jack and Luna, as Luna is the reason Jack joined the Light's army. However, this happens all so quickly and literally within the first chapter of the game. I would have appreciated if we could have expanded on this more by allowing more time for this to flourish early on, and maybe dedicate the first 2 chapters to making us want to feel something for these 2 characters. I will admit the lore of the world is incredibly interesting and is expanded upon when speaking to characters or picking up items scattered around the environment. I also like how things are not simply black and white, and while Roshanians have done awful things, Lucium is not free of sins either, and this is explored during the game itself.
You'll put in the time, on the front lines like everyone else.
How much time are we talking?
In this world, Jack is known as a Triarch. This means he can make use of all 3 colours of magic. Blue is force magic, red is chaos, and green is life. Jack receives a sigil during the early training portion of the game. This tool allows him to focus his magic better and more accurately. At the beginning, you only have blue magic available to you, but as you continue through, you will find sigils for red and green at spell altars. You can swap between sigils at the press of a button, making it easier for you to bring up the colour of magic you want quickly. This was actually something I was afraid of early on, as I believed it would need to be equipped and then unequipped when you wanted to use something else. Thankfully, this was not the case. In addition to the sigils, you'll also come across additional spells that can be used. One spell you will get early on is Shield, and let me tell you that this has saved me more times than I can count through my playthrough, as it allows you to block and attack at the same time. Now, as you can imagine, with 3 types of magic, combat can get pretty crazy, and things do elevate as you continue to play through the game. The main idea is to use the colour of magic that matches the enemy you are going up against, as this gives you the best chance at competing against them. The game makes this pretty obvious in the moment. However, where things get tricky is when you are dealing with multiple enemies of different magic colour types. Another key element to combat is managing your mana bar, as certain spells can drain it pretty quickly, especially those that fall under the Furies category. One in particular I'm fond of is Shatter, which can not only deal a good amount of damage, but can also help to break enemy shields. 1 bar of mana does replenish, albeit slowly when you are totally drained, so you will never be without it. However, it will put you at a significant disadvantage. The best way to overcome this is to stock up on mana crystals, which could be picked up as drops when enemies are defeated, or from the environment itself via boxes and chests. Lastly, a final aspect of the game that will aid you in combat is making sure that you are upgrading your gear and talents. On your journey, you'll be able to find or buy new sigils, totems, rings and braces, with each having different properties depending on the playstyle you're going for. For example, some sigils will have a higher damage output, however the fire rate will be low, so this is something you would need to take into consideration. Talents are abilities which can increase your power, and you can acquire new ones by collecting Arcanum. Arcanum is found by defeating enemies and exploring Aveum. When the Arcanum bar is full, you earn Ascensions that you can use to buy new talents. Talents are shown via the talents tree and are split between the 3 colours of magic, red, green and blue. Those which are available to you will be highlighted, and as you progress you'll be able to pick up even more. I wasn't a huge fan of this, or more specifically the explanation behind it, as it felt more complicated than it needed to be. I feel that a simple XP system would have worked out better and still produced the same results that the game was going for. Combat for the most part is an enjoyable experience, and seeing yourself fire off all these spells one after the other is quite satisfying as you dart around the screen avoiding enemy fire and watch the screen fill up with magic fueled fireworks. Where combat can become tiresome is in the late game, where you can find yourself fighting wave after waves of enemies, and in some combination with each other can make for a really frustrating experience. One example I can remember is defeating a boss, only to move into the next area and be instantly greeted by a large wave of enemies. I personally feel that at this point some sort of a breather would have been best, and possibly allow the game to focus on something else for a little while, such as exploration. The boss battles themselves I've really enjoyed, and they put up quite a good challenge. I've never felt at one point that it was completely unfair. There will be certain segments where you will have a character fighting alongside you, in which case this will ease the difficulty a little bit. Outside of combat, you can explore the world of Aveum with more areas opening up as you progress through the game. To get to different areas, you can use portals which have been unlocked, in addition to the ley lines, which act as a sort of rail system which you can hang on to and move through the environment at a quicker pace. Overall, I feel like the magic shooter works in a fun and engaging way, and I would love to see Ascendant Studios bring this type of combat to a multiplayer game, as it could make for some really hype matches. For the most part, it works. However, as mentioned before, certain segments can make it seem a little overwhelming, and finding that balance would have been key. Thankfully, this happens only on a few occasions, and for the majority of the playthrough, it works well. I would be remiss not to mention the visual look of Aveum, as it is actually quite striking. Props to the art team because they really nailed the world and effects down, from the underbelly of Seren to the more majestic looking Palaforn. It is a beautiful world to explore. I really did enjoy my time with Immortals of Aveum, and the team really do have something there should they wish to expand upon it with a sequel or even DLC. It may seem a bit much at first with 3 different colours of magic, however I was surprised at how quickly I picked it up for the sake of being proficient in combat. Some story elements really could have used more tightening up to elevate it in my eyes, however the world and lore more than makes up for this for those who like to dig a little bit deeper. Overall, it has been an enjoyable experience, and if you're a fan of fantasy games, then you do not want to miss this. Immortals of Aveum gets the silver stamp from me. Thank you for checking out this review. Let me know what you guys thought of Immortals of Aveum. Please do click like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel for plenty more content coming in the future.